live?
We are live.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Well, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you here. I think, let's see, how long have we known each other now?
I think we started working with each other at Next Door Lounge. So it must have been it was right after the pandemic, 22.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, so 3
years.
Wild. Yeah. Oh my gosh, so crazy.
Yeah. And
I love it though.
Don't even know how many gigs we've done together. At least maybe 50 or more.
It's just all blended together. Yeah. But what I think is so funny is that I don't think I even knew that we had the same name until a couple years later.
Well, I think it was once we were scheduled together and Candace forgot to use Marquez instead of Elisa. And you pronounce it
Alyssa.
Alyssa, yeah.
Yours is Elisa.
Elisa, but it's spelt the same.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's with this booking? I'm performing every set. How is that even possible?
Oh my God. Crazy.
Hilarious.
Yeah. I remember thinking the same thing and being like, wow, she's really putting me to work today.
Hilarious.
So funny though. So your parents pronounce it Elisa.
Yeah. So I'm Mexican descent.
Yes.
And so even though it's spelled like Alyssa, the Y is pronounced like an I.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So mine is Alyssa, and that's what they named me. But my dad's from China, so he says it Elisa. Only ever. He never says Alyssa. Even though he was the one that named me. So I think my mom said he wanted to call me Kathy, but he kept saying Cassie.
Aww.
So she was like, we can't do that name.
Oh, adorable.
Yeah.
So English is the second language?
Yes. Yeah, very thick accent.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's so funny.
And you have no accent at all.
No, nothing.
Yeah, same with me.
Yeah,
my
that's
mom
true.
has a not pretty heavy Mexican accent, but she's also bilingual.
Okay.
But I am not.
Same.
Yeah, it's
such a bummer.
Yeah, that kind of immigrant family thing. Sometimes I thought I felt very insecure about it a lot growing up.
Really?
But my mom intentionally didn't teach it because she wanted to raise an all-American girl because she dealt with such prejudice growing up in Arizona on a border town.
Oh wow!
So it was intentional. And then when I moved to Los Angeles, and especially where I live now in Lincoln Heights, I met a lot of people like myself too that their parents purposely did not teach them.
Oh, so interesting.
Yeah. And I'm really when I travel, especially I dance on a cruise ship or anytime I've been in Mexico, I feel comfortable practicing in Mexico because they're oh, she's an American tourist.
Yeah.
But if I'm doing so in Arizona, my hometown, or with my family, my mom would say, oh, you sound like such a gringa. I can't with you.
Oh my God, how funny. Yeah. Oh, how interesting.
Yeah.
What kind of
shitty.
Yeah, seriously. My dad always gives me shit. He's like, why don't you learn Chinese? And I'm like, why didn't you teach me?
Yeah.
Would have been so much easier
when you're young.
Yeah. But I know for him it was he was struggling so much learning English and just trying to become an American himself that he couldn't. I think it was too much to think about making us Chinese also. Yeah. Even though we were raised very Chinese. But I consider myself an American girl, very much so.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so random, but I'm curious to know. I brought this up to my American friends, knowing that they probably couldn't relate.
Yeah.
Do you ever look in the mirror? I mean, maybe because now you've branded yourself.
Oh, yeah.
But maybe before the green, have you ever looked in the mirror and been I don't recognize the person I'm looking at? Because when I look in the mirror, I see someone who looks very ethnic. But in my head, I'm very American. So I'm always man, the white girl in me is not connecting with this Asian girl I'm looking at,
I mean, I guess I could relate a little bit in the sense of that's where acting and dancing and pursuing that career in Los Angeles, you get typed. And I was always ethnically ambiguous when I had dark hair because I could look different ethnicities.
Yeah.
And I think the green just takes it to that extra level where people are well, what are you?
Yeah.
because I'm green.
Yeah, you're like a
I'm green.
mystical character at this
Yeah.
point. Like,
Exactly. So I guess in a way, like not necessarily feeling like when I look in the mirror I don't recognize myself, but feeling, very much like I wanted to like change my look and not
yeah.
have dark black hair.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
you like created your look
Mhm.
to like I feel like reflect who you are,
Yeah.
which I feel like I do that with my clothing, but
Mm.
when it comes to like my facial features or my hair, I did used to do blue and purple hair like when I started doing circus.
Uh-huh.
But then I felt like it was a reflection. Like I feel like I was dyeing my hair so much to deal with my trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
To like almost like change my identity.
Mm-hmm.
And I always used to tell one of my roommates, I was like, the day all the color comes out of my hair is the day that I've started healing. And like, sure enough, like
Wow.
I started doing like blonde highlights, and
Mhm.
like that was when I started kind of recognizing the issues. And then once
Ah.
even the blonde started going out and I started going back to my full dark natural hair,
Mhm.
was when I like started doing therapy and like
Mhm.
reconnected with my old self and like began to feel like myself again.
That's so interesting
It's
and really beautiful. I
thank
mean,
you.
like color in general is so powerful. The
So
colors that we
powerful.
wear in our clothes, in our
Yeah.
makeup, on our hair, like all that is like really, truly, I believe in the power of color.
Totally,
Mhm.
totally. Yeah, I would love to know why green? What
Mhm.
was like the moment you were like, because every time I see you, you embody green.
I mean, either in green or animal
Yeah,
print. And I
yeah,
feel like
yeah.
animal print is just like the burlesque neutrals because
Okay,
it's like black,
yeah.
brown, tan.
True.
So for burlesque performers, it's
Yeah.
like a neutral color.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's
It
like-
goes with everything.
it's so chaotic, but burlesque is chaotic that it is the neutral.
Yeah, exactly,
Oh, how
exactly.
funny.
But yeah, I was on a burlesque contract in Atlantic City.
Okay.
And at that point, I had been signed with Block Talent Agency here in Los Angeles.
Wow. Okay.
And that's through that auditioning through Block, I got the contract in Atlantic City. And Atlantic City, I was there for a little over 2 years.
Okay.
And we were really encouraged to come into our own as solo performers.
Okay.
And I remember, with the agency, it was always like, keep natural highlights,
Yeah.
don't get nails, don't,
Yeah.
be something that you can get booked and blessed on, commercial and film work.
Totally.
And then being allowed the opportunity to be like, you're under contract, you're fine, go ahead and like play with your hair color, get your nails done, do crazy stuff that's an
Oh, how
expression of
funny.
you was really awesome. I was paging through a Vogue and I just saw it was like right when Fantasy Coloring Hair was
Okay.
starting, and it's this beautiful studio. I don't know, or salon. I don't know if it's still there anymore because this was like 10 years ago, probably. This was a while ago.
Wow.
Called Hello Beautiful, and it was super punk rock, like pink walls, animal print everywhere. Everyone had cool mohawks
Oh
and
my
hair color and stuff.
gosh.
And I was like, oh my God, these are like my people.
Yeah.
And so I really feel like that salon helped me come into my own.
Wow.
Yeah, I had an amazing hairdresser. Her name is escaping me at the
Oh
moment.
no.
But I really wanted, because I was so inspired. This was when I was first like really diving into burlesque. I had
Okay.
been a part of a burlesque troupe here in LA beforehand, but like the history of burlesque. And I took a lot of inspiration from the pinup Betty Page.
Oh yeah.
Naturally, of
Ugh,
course. She's
yeah.
so amazing. And so my hair naturally is really thick, curly, like
Oh.
Mexican hair.
Oh
And so I
wow.
did the Betty Page bangs where you like cut out like through the
Oh
hairline.
my
My hair was
gosh.
still like this big.
Oh my gosh.
So my hair can take the bleaching and process
Okay.
of this
That
because
makes
it's been over
sense.
10 years now.
Wow.
And I start a lot of the illustrations of her that are done in artwork is like instead of black, it's like this ink blue color.
Oh.
Yeah, so I started like this very dark ink blue.
Okay.
But I'm kind of lazy about my high maintenance stuff.
Really?
Yeah. And
I
so
would not
it would
guess.
wash out green. And
Oh, okay,
and my
okay.
hair, like a turquoise green.
Okay,
And
yeah.
I was like, I don't want to be touching up my hair
Yeah.
like every few
It's
washes.
so much work.
So my hair told me it wanted to be green, And
Oh my
it
gosh, how
luckily works with my
funny.
complexion. And so that's
Yeah.
how the green happened. And now
Oh, amazing.
my car is green, like all my costumes are green.
Yeah.
But I've always been like a plant girly.
Okay.
So like just being surrounded by green, once again, the power
Yeah.
of color
Yeah.
and nature, like feels
Totally.
right.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's interesting too, because again, like I'm so used to seeing you glam, burlesque,
Yeah.
like, but
I'm
it's
in my natural look.
this is her natural. Like it shocked me at first. I was like, whoa, like
Eyelashes not past the
Yeah.
eyebrows, and my eyebrows are green.
yeah,
So,
I
this is
saw that too.
natural.
Yeah, I love it. But that's so interesting that your inspiration comes from nature. Because like when you think about burlesque, it's almost like kind of the opposite of nature. It's all like artificial glam, diamonds, money, material. But then like, you know, I never would have thought, but it does make sense, the animal and the green. But I feel like too, burlesque is, to me, very animalistic. Well, and I think too, this is why I love performing with you, because I know we both connect really heavily with the rock and roll side of things too. Like
the raw expression.
Yes.
I mean, burlesque is such a umbrella term of
so
different
much to it.
styles. And both of us do both of these
Yeah.
styles.
Yeah.
But being able to, like, that's why I fell in love with burlesque, was being able to express myself.
Yeah.
And we have so many emotions to express,
Yeah.
not just opulence. And
Yeah.
of course, we love the opulent style of burlesque, like the champagne
Totally.
dances and the
Yeah.
big feather fans and all that stuff. But also, it can be such a raw expression of the performer.
Totally. Yeah, that's always been my favorite. Like I love the glam, I love the beautiful. I admire the girls who are just very like dainty and like small, subtle movements that like are still so powerful.
The art of the like slow burn, where it's not like a heavily dance. It's really
taking the time to take the corset off. Like
it's a beautiful spectrum of movement and performance.
Totally. I've always, and my roots in burlesque are in the very raw rock and roll, crazy hair flipping, like
body bending, dancing,
crawling on the floor.
I mean, you don't want to see my knees; they're constantly bruised.
Girl, I have like it's just so bad.
But we can talk about like the fact that like burlesque is, and we were talking about before we started filming, is like seen as this like ultimate glam, but the reality of being a showgirl or showbiz is not always the glam, and that's the sell.
So true.
We're making it look, you know, pristine, clean, and all of that good stuff. But
so true.
A lot of blood, sweat, and tears go into it.
So true. So true. I had this gig in Vegas recently, and they flew me out, got me a king suite, and all I had to do was show up, and they paid me like $600 just to show up. And like all I had to do was like walk on stage, and they were like, Alyssa Maylou in the house. That was it.
Okay, influencer, celebrity, getting paid just to be seen. Okay.
The funny thing was, it was at a strip club, and I told my mom, and she was like, "So what? Are you famous among strippers?" And I was like, "Yes."
That's incredible.
And I've never stripped at that was like maybe my second time in a strip club ever. It was so funny.
Do you do pole?
I do.
Okay, that's probably why.
Right? Yeah, because I'm an athletic pole dancer, but I've never actually done stripping, because in stripping you don't actually make that much money on the pole. It's all the lap dances, and I would never.
Well, there are two different like forms of work for sure.
Totally.
As opposed to like athletic pole. I can imagine, but like understanding also like stripper culture. It's not about the tricks.
It's not. Yeah.
It's really about the connection with the client.
Exactly. Yeah. And when I perform, it's very much so. It's about me, and I'm too good for you to like touch, but you can look at me, you know. Whereas like stripping, you have to make your client feel special to get the money, which is why I would never be a good stripper. But it was so funny, because here it's this like super like glam kind of job, but yet like my whole, and so many of my gigs go like this, especially the travel ones. My whole journey to getting there was ridiculous. Like my flight got delayed. We were stuck on the plane trying to get off. And then like I get to the hotel, and like the room's not paid for, so they want like my card. And I know like even if they reimburse me, I know there's going to be all these different fees. So I refused to give them my card because I was like, I am not supposed to pay for this. And I had like dinner plans before the gig. And so like I'm sitting in the lobby of the hotel with all my bags, like my feet, I have like blisters on my feet from like walking, and I'm like curling my hair, like looking at my iPad, doing my makeup, trying to get ready.
Doing makeup in the car, like
like the most unglamorous thing. This massive bodyguard from the strip club pulls up with cash, and he walks up to me and he's like, so they don't take cash. Can we use your card and I'll pay you the cash?
Oh, man.
And I actually only had Apple Pay too. And they didn't have Apple Pay anyway.
Oh, no.
So it was just this whole, and so then like I still had these dinner plans. And I was like, I gotta eat like before I go to this thing. So then like I'm like repacking up my curling iron. I'm taking all my bags. I'm walking down the street to like this fancy restaurant to get dinner with my friends. And like my feet are getting so blistered.
Thank God you didn't have to perform.
I know. And I was like losing my voice because I think I was coming out of being sick. So then I'm like in the strip club getting paid this money, being like all beautiful, but my voice is like so strained. And I'm like, people have no idea. Like, it's really hard to be glamorous, honestly. It's a lot of work.
Well, it seems like the problems were worth it. Good problems to have to just show up and get paid $600. So.
It was very worth it. But I swear, I feel like I have so many moments that are just like that silly moment of an eyelash falling out of my hair randomly.
Being a traveling like show girl, show boy, show person, all genders included, is really challenging.
It is.
Like being able to pack your costumes, not check them, because if you arrive there and your costumes aren't there, you can't do the gig.
So true.
Makeup, when TSA was limiting like things. I've traveled with burlesque feather fans all the way to Japan.
Oh my gosh.
That was not easy.
That's rough. Yeah. How did you carry them? And
and they weren't the collapsible ones. So they were like the big ones that don't collapse. Yeah, I had to get like a special box.
Yeah, because you can't check those, right? Like, or did you?
I checked them.
Oh, but you had them in the box.
Yeah, but that was because I had my costumes with me. I was like, oh my God. So I had to, because it was for the Fuji Rock Music Festival.
Okay.
And so we had 3 days of shows.
Okay.
So I had a lot of costumes with me. And I was like, if I'm not able to like carry on the fans, then at least I won't lose my costume.
Yeah.
I'm like, which one do I pick? But if I showed up to Japan and only had feather fans and no costumes, I think that would be a worst case scenario.
Yeah.
But I was just like, please don't lose my expensive feather fans.
We're just gonna do this whole act in fans, and at the end, bam,
naked, fully naked.
Oh yeah, I've had that where I've traveled with like my fire equipment or like even pieces of my pole.
Oh.
And I've gotten through with my fire equipment before, and then sometimes I don't. And I'm just like, I'm a fire performer. Like this, and like two, it's not flammable. Like there's no kerosene on it. Like it's just a stick with like wicker on it. Like what's gonna happen? There's like, even if it was lit on fire, it wouldn't lit because it doesn't have any fuel. Like, so it's very frustrating.
I once had a pair, this was ages ago, and not really costume related, but just funny, a pair of Jeffrey Campbells back in the day, and they were the big platform ones. So I don't know if you remember, and they had spikes all in the back. They were so goth and cool and punk rock. I wasn't allowed to wear them on the plane, and they just took them. They didn't ship them back to me, and those are like $400 shoes. I cried.
Oh, I would cry too. I'd be devastated. They didn't ship them back to you?
No. So, but, luckily they came back into style this past year.
Oh.
So I have a new pair now.
Oh, great. Okay, good.
That's when you're aging. It is when something you had before went out of style and
it comes back. Wait, so did you have to walk like barefoot?
I think I had like another pair of shoes in my like suitcase or something.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. Or maybe I bought some flip-flops at the gift store. I don't know.
You just
don't know.
remember you weren't barefoot.
Yeah, exactly. But
Oh
that's a beautiful
my.
part of our job is being able to travel so much.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
I feel very lucky and grateful and blessed
For
and
sure.
privileged to be able to travel for work.
Definitely. And
Yeah.
then to be able to come back and still have a job too
Yeah.
is very huge blessing.
Hmm.
So you just got married. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So
It was
exciting.
1 month anniversary yesterday.
So
I
exciting.
am gonna so be that girl.
Yeah, as you should, like 100%. Is your husband also a traveling artist?
Yeah, he's traveled on tour a few
Okay.
times with a few different bands. So he's a bass player.
Okay.
And he also very similar to me, and I think this is why we connected so well. And I'm so happy and blessed and privileged to be married to him.
Yeah.
Is I'm also a burlesque teacher, and he's
Okay.
also a music instructor. And then we both
Oh.
have our gigs at night or touring for
Yes.
gigs and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So even though he's in music and I'm in dance, our careers are very similar in that way.
Yeah.
And so yeah, when we first started dating, he had like a summer, like 3 month tour.
Okay.
You know,
Wow. At the beginning of your
yeah,
relationship.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Wild.
yeah. We were friends beforehand,
That's right. Yeah.
but yeah, I was like, yeah, babe, get on
Yeah.
the road,
Just do your
go
thing.
do it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, not everyone I think understands
Totally.
that and understands how hard it is to be on the road and
Yeah.
how hard it is to have like long distance relationships in
Yeah.
those circumstances where half the time they don't have any good reception because they're
Yeah.
on the tour bus driving from gig to gig and like,
Mhm.
road life for musicians is really, really hard.
Totally.
I think
Yeah.
for us as dancers, like, I mean, I've never been on a tour where I'm on a tour bus.
Yeah.
So in
Yeah.
that case, I'm sure it's pretty
Definitely.
bad. But like most of the gigs that I've traveled for have been, flights, which,
Yeah. Yeah.
is a lot easier than
Totally.
tour on the bus.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. When I toured in Australia, we were lucky enough to get our own cabin,
Oh, nice.
which was pretty spoiled. Like
Yeah.
even the we had our circus show and then there was a dance show and
Mhm.
the circus show was part of a circus company, whereas the
Mhm.
dance show was part of the cruise ship.
Ah.
And I know all the dancers had to like share, they had bunk beds and they
Mhm.
had to share rooms and
Yeah.
they weren't allowed to like wander around. And we
Mm.
were really lucky.
Yeah.
But it goes to
Each
show,
cruise ship is so different in that way.
yeah,
Because mine,
totally.
as dancers, it was Holland America Line. We had to share, but we were like treated like the stars of the ship because the average age demographic was older. So they actually
Oh,
really wanted us to go out
okay,
and go to the
yeah.
dining, restaurants and
Wow.
like go to the bars and socialize. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think part of that too, because I know a lot of the dancers were a lot younger, whereas like I know the
Mm,
circus show was all like people who have performed around the world. So
mhm,
it is interesting too. I feel like regardless of exactly what your skill is,
mhm,
where you kind of are in your skill level journey,
mhm,
your status almost as a performer,
mhm,
it really can affect your contract and get you
mhm.
some benefits.
Yeah.
But I think regardless, however you're touring, there's always a lot of challenges to touring.
Mhm,
Like I remember being on the ship, my life was so plush, like
mhm.
free food 24/7, different country every
Yeah.
day, like zip lining in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
But then there are the challenges of, I'm on a ship
Mhm.
24/7,
Yeah.
like, and every week, like, new people
Mhm.
are around me, and my cast was constantly changing too. So
Oh,
it
interesting.
was like sometimes, you meet someone, and by the end of 2 weeks, you're like your family, your best. You've
Mm,
spent every single day
mhm.
traveling the world together, and then their replacement you might hate.
Yeah.
and they're gone, and your
Yeah.
whole support system is gone.
Yeah, social and like community on the cruise ship. Like we didn't have a rotating cast,
Okay.
but we had 6 month contracts, and I did 2 back to back contracts.
Mhm.
And at the end of it, I was like, "Get me off of the ship."
Yeah.
Like I'm tired of seeing the same people, not
Yeah.
only in our cast, but like the pilots, the sailors, like
Yeah.
everyone, the people that worked in the shops. It's just like this
Mhm.
is your only interaction of people, you
Yeah.
know
It's
and
crazy.
it's hard on. I feel like that's really right now after the pandemic too,
Uh-huh.
understanding that like community and friendship is so important.
So
And
important.
in this era of technology, like isolating and like
Yeah.
just connecting with people through social media has very
Yeah.
much changed, I think, the culture, and reminding ourselves that we need to go back to being amongst people, and
Yeah.
having community is so important.
So true. It's so true. I was on the phone with my best friend yesterday, and I told her, I was like, this is actually the first time in my life that I've had a group of healthy friends.
Mm,
And I've never really, like, I've had community before, but it's not always been healthy,
mm-hmm.
and this
Yeah.
is the first time I have like a very I mean, we all joke because we're like obsessed with our job, and we say it's how we cope with our mental health because we all have like anxiety. So
Mm.
that's why we all have like matching scars, because we're
Oh,
always working together and
yeah.
like drill and train like maybe too hard.
Yeah.
But at the same time, on the whole, it still is like the healthiest. We
Mm.
all look out for each other. We all care about each other. Like we would do anything for each other. Whereas like past communities I've been in, it's been very selfish, and it's
Mm-hmm.
been very, what can we get out of each other,
I think that's also like obviously like a maturity thing
Yeah.
of having, with each relationship, each
Yeah.
job, we learn lessons, of course. And I think in LA particularly is a
Yeah.
place where, what can you do for me
Yes. Yeah.
when
That's
you
a
meet
big
people?
thing.
And it takes a while. Like usually when people first
Yeah.
move here, I'm like, give it like at least 3 years until
So
you
true.
start finding your community.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I think that's the difficult thing about being an artist too, is that it's so weird because it's one of the most social jobs you have, because you're
Mhm.
constantly traveling, meeting people, doing shows with different people,
Mhm.
meeting audience members. But it's also one of the most isolating jobs you have, because
Mhm.
you're constantly meeting
Yep.
people, traveling. You're
Yeah.
like it's really takes time
Mhm.
to find people that you're going to see regularly.
Yeah.
Especially like dating too. It's
Mhm.
like, it's not like, I think a lot of people meet their partners at work because you
Yeah.
see each other every single day.
Yep.
Whereas us, every day is different.
Mhm.
Every day you're somewhere new. Even
Yeah.
if you're going to if you have the same show,
Mhm.
even if you have a contract and you're doing the same show, when the contract ends,
Yeah.
now you have a whole new cast, you
Yeah.
know?
No, absolutely.
And it makes it a little isolating.
I think also a lot of people that aren't performers don't understand. A lot of performers are introverts
Yeah.
because we're
So
expressing
true.
so much of ourselves on stage.
Yeah.
I know I need to rest my social
Totally.
battery.
Yeah.
So in that way, sometimes we purposely self isolate too, because we're
Totally.
giving so much in our performance and our
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. I always have, I had a phase where I was like overly social,
Mhm.
but now like people are always inviting me out to parties,
Mhm.
and and they assume because I'm at clubs all the time, I must love to party.
Mm.
Or they think like, well, just keep the party going and come party after. And it's
Yeah.
like, by the time I'm done, I'm
Mhm.
exhausted physically, I'm exhausted emotionally, I'm exhausted mentally, because I just, my energy filled the space of a room of
Yeah.
like hundreds of people,
Yeah.
and I had to perform for all of them. And
Mhm.
because even sometimes, like, you forget sometimes, like when you're doing ambiance sets, even like
Mhm.
people are watching, people are filming, and sometimes I see videos
Yeah.
that people took of me, and I'm like, oh my god, like you can totally tell I tapped out for
You're
2 seconds.
checked out. Yeah.
And I'm tired, and I'm like, God, when is this set gonna end? And then they
Oh,
post
no.
this video of me, and I'm like,
Ooh.
why that moment? Like that was the exact moment I was like, oh fuck, Alyssa, get back in it,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Oh.
but yeah, it is exhausting.
Mhm.
But I've noticed for myself too, I'm at a point where it's like I used to think, oh, I need to date somebody stable to balance me out.
Mhm.
And I would try, and it just
Mhm.
never really worked out.
Mhm.
And I'm at a point where it's like, I only really like dating other artists now. Even in my friendships, it's like it's hard to have a friendship with someone who has a 9 to 5.
Mm.
Unless they have like, or they're an artist on the side too, because
Mhm.
it's the longer I've lived in this world, the harder it's been to remember there's a different reality that's a more regular reality for people, because
Mhm.
this has become reality.
Mhm.
So
And
but
even dating, I think I think dating and friendship can be a lot different. I love having a diverse group of friends because I feel like they inspire me in different ways that aren't necessarily creative, but in dating, at least that's what worked for me too, is finding someone that was like balanced in their lifestyle. I think is really important. If I was dating someone with a normal 9 to 5 and like our gigs end at 2:00. Most days I don't wake up until 10, maybe even 12, because as dancers and performers, our bodies are our instrument
we have to sleep.
So we have to rest.
So essential.
Take care of our bodies. And so, I just don't think that would probably work out just on a sleeping schedule side. And I think what you were talking about as far as like trying to have someone stable or more consistent with their work or career and that sort of thing. I think that's also what we're taught as women. As far as finding the right man for you is someone that's a provider. Someone that's stable, that's going to take care of you. And I think we have to ask ourselves, like, is that actually what we want and need? Or is this what our culture and society have told us we should have?
Totally. I struggle with this every day of my life. But yeah, that's why too. So you and your husband are monogamous, traditional?
I would say we're an adventurous couple.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
Both of us consider ourselves queer. We identify with the queer community. And we're not like polyamorous or anything like that, but we are adventurous. If you express something to me, I'd be like, all right, let's talk about this and like explore it together or explore how that's going to look.
For sure.
And I think in many ways, whether it's, your sexual life or that part of your relationship or anything else, it's important to be able to grow and change with your partner.
Yes, 100%.
And when you're like, we're monogamous or like, this is my career, this is what I do, if you're like too like not stale, rigid, then that doesn't allow you to change and evolve with your partner.
Totally.
And it is, breaking is a great analogy.
You need to have, it's funny. I always tell people that I'm monogamous and traditional, but a big part of that, because there are different parts of open aspects that don't bother me. I never lead with that though, because having such a sensual career, people, I get so, not as much anymore, but back in the day, I get a lot of like people assuming I'm bi or assuming I'm very polyamorous or assuming that I'm just a straight up hoe, which can be a challenge to kind of have that stigma, because we are like, our job is to kind of to glorify the woman's body. And like, our job is to be a sexual icon. But we are also human beings.
Well, I think it's like the difference between like, I like that you use the term icon because it's icon as opposed to object. Right? So we're not a sexual object. And I think, with burlesque or like a lot of the performance that we do that is sensual and sexual, it's oftentimes an expression of our own sexuality and sensuality rather than the perspective of us doing it for someone else, doing it for the audience, so that we're sexualizing ourselves to become a sexual object for them. It's the opposite. We're glorifying sexuality and sensuality. And I think, also in our culture, we have a big problem with like slut shaming.
Oh
just
my God,
because I'm wearing like a crop top or a short skirt doesn't mean I'm a slut. And if I was a slut, what's your problem with that? Like, why do you need to know about my sexual life? It doesn't involve you. And I think like even thinking about our wardrobe being like consent, like just because I'm wearing a low cut top doesn't mean that you can stare at my chest.
It's
like
crazy.
That's not me consenting to be objectified.
Totally. Well, and it's so interesting because I live on Hollywood Boulevard, so walking out the door is a mission every single day. But I think maybe it was my dad that actually made this comment to me, because I was just telling him about the struggles of it, and like amazingly enough, like my dad's accepted my career is what it is and actually has become quite supportive, which is wild because it was not okay in the beginning. But he made the comment to me, he's like, well, maybe like if you dress differently, you'll get less comments. And I was like, you know what's crazy is that the more dressed up I am, the less I'm approached. Whereas the more dressed down I am, the more I'm approached, because I think they almost feel like it's easier target. You know, like I can be wearing full on baggy sweats, and like that's when it's like every 5 seconds somebody's coming up to me, and like, you know.
So why is it our responsibility for other people's bad behavior?
Exactly. It's not. It's really not. It's an excuse. And that's a big part of why I started this podcast. And it's crazy because I see the comments on the reels, and it's just like, you know, I think LA, we're very open-minded, but I do forget a lot of the rest of the world is not. And a lot of these comments from these men are just disgusting. And they really do believe, like, what is this thing now? Your body, my choice.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like,
it's scary.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's wild.
So, and that's why I started bringing men on the podcast too. Today I'm releasing I have 2 men who they work in the modeling industry, like setting up shoots and stuff. So they work with a lot of models. So I brought them on to get their perspective, because it's not just a male versus female mindset. It's a disgusting mindset that needs to be addressed versus there is a healthy mindset. And there are men who get it. And there are men who work with models in lingerie and don't objectify them and see them as human beings and still appreciate their art. But they have no sense of like ownership or anything like that. You know, so it's kind of like it's a mentality that needs to be addressed, I think.
Well, it's affecting, you know, our laws.
Yes.
Like the fact that reproductive rights are so on the line right now.
So insane.
Is crazy. You would think that we've evolved so much since the 60s and 70s.
Right?
And it feels like we're taking so many steps backwards right now.
Crazy.
And even just the fact of why these, you know, lawmakers, they think they need to have control over what women do with their bodies is
insane.
Just at an inherent, like, bottom level, fucked up. Like, it's so fucked up.
Fucked up.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's like, and that's where it gets so frustrating that men don't deal with periods, men don't like give birth, because you can't.
Well, some do, trans men do.
Fair. But unfortunately,
I'm sure the comments, if I start talking about the trans community and gender non-conforming community, I'm sure the comments are going to be crazy.
Yeah, so true. But also needed to talk about, because even like, you know, the ones in power are the white supremacist males who, you know,
to control what people do with their bodies, and
who will never have to worry about anyone imposing anything on their bodies. Like, even when I think about being pregnant and having a life inside of me growing and living and eating off of me, it just really, like, the woman body blows my mind. Like, I really have moments where I get so overwhelmed and I'm like, does nobody realize that we're going through some alien shit? Or like, this is like Prometheus or something. Like, what the fuck? It's magical and terrifying, you know?
Yeah, I've been, I'm someone that's never really like wanted children, but like, of course, we think about it as women because we have to, because if you're gonna take away birth control, then we have to think about the reality of what our bodies do.
Yes.
And it freaks me out.
Yes, it's like, you know,
I have so much respect for women that have children. So much respect. And
it's crazy how many women have children too.
And being like a single mom, and like being
seriously
cheap caretaker and money maker, all that. I was raised by a single mom, and I just think those women are fucking like insane, like heroes.
Yeah,
incredible. I don't know how.
Truly, women are so tenacious. Like,
it's mind-blowing. And that's why I'm so discouraged at how little credit we get and how our rights are at stake right now. It's insane. Because the sad reality is, if you're a woman, you kind of don't get, like, especially with all these laws, you don't have full control over your body. Because there's always the risk of something happening, and just takes that one scene to get in. And like, that's it. Like, your body is now going through all these changes. Even if you never have sex a day in your life, you still have to deal with a period every single month. And it alters you physically, mentally, emotionally on every level for a week. Every single month. I was on birth control for a really long time. When I got off of birth control and started experiencing my periods again, I just remember every time I'd go backstage and I'd be like, I'm on my period. How are we doing this? How does no one realize what we are going through every single month? Like, if any man walked into work with his arm bleeding out, people would be like, oh my God, but we do that every month. And it blows my mind. And to think that, like, with all we go through, we're back to losing rights. It's really so sad. So, and that's why I think, I have so much respect for, the women who have been sexual icons throughout our time, like Marilyn Monroe, Pamela Anderson, because they've gone through so much to make a stand for us. And I think that's why, I truly love Playboy so much. I love working with them. I love working for them. I mean, granted, like, now they're not the same as what they used to be. It's very different now. But I do love what it stands for, because it takes women and sexualizes them in an iconic way, but not in an objectifying way. And something that really shocked me in my career was when I was a burlesque dancer, I had so many men who were obsessed with me, and then I would start hooking up with them, and even, like, if they stopped seeing anybody else, they would tell me, I cannot commit to you because of your job. And it was just like, what? It was mind-blowing to me, because it's like, we have this good relationship, you're introducing me to everybody, you're treating me like your boyfriend, and yet you are telling me you will never commit to me because of my job, where I'm not even touching anyone or doing anything.
I think a lot of burlesque performers, a lot of strippers, a lot of sex workers, experience the same thing. It's that idea. Sometimes the man, like, thinks, of course, they want the sexual icon that everyone is, like, drooling over. But then when you start dating them, it's like, well, it's not what you do. It's just that people need to, like, see you do it, and the way people look at you, or like, I want you just for myself. And, like, trying to, like, change us and pull us away from doing the things that we love.
It's crazy, and it's the thing that you fell in love with at the beginning. And now you want me to become, like, a shell of myself for your ego, which is wild. Especially, like, I'm a super loyal person. Like,
I am too. When I'm in a relationship, I'm very, very loyal.
Exactly. And it's just, it's mind-blowing to me. So, but it was really interesting too, because then I got into the OnlyFans scene, which is a really insane scene to work in, and I do understand, like, why it can be harder for men to date girls who have an OnlyFans, and you do have to be kind of a certain type of guy, or you just have to be a certain. It just has to be a right flow. But it's interesting, because then when I joined Playboy, I actually did not tell anybody that Playboy had signed me for at least a year. And I was, like, excited, but also kind of, like, ashamed almost. And I was like, man, like, if people know I'm working with Playboy, what are they going to say? And it wasn't until I went to Australia and I mentioned I was working for Playboy, and suddenly like I got like people just were like, oh my, they just revered me so much. And I was so used to being put down for having an OnlyFans account or for being a burlesque dancer. But like and then when it came like really became public with like I work with Playboy, my status went up. And even the guys who had told me they couldn't date me, like all started like coming back.
Yeah.
And then even wanting to like be involved in my work with me. And I was like,
no.
You wish. Like
yeah.
And it just blew my mind. But it's crazy to see how like men perceive these things, and how even if it's almost the exact same thing, it's perceived so differently.
It's just a status thing. It's a name thing.
Yeah.
Very LA. That like, oh, if it's like a big publication like Playboy, it's fine.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it yourself on your OnlyFans, then it's not.
Yeah, definitely. Or even
the same thing with like social media, where it's like celebrities can post more salacious photos of themselves, and then like we post something in pasties and we get in trouble immediately.
Yes, so true. Well, even something that's really blown my mind lately is, you know, I recently filmed in a couple of movies, and so I've been exploring acting, and I'll watch some TV shows. And there are some shows where these really revered actors are completely naked, you know, totally topless, simulated sex. And because, you know, I've never done porn, I've never been in that industry, but because of the people I was associating with in OnlyFans, I was around a lot of it, I saw a lot of it, and I was realizing it's not that different. It's almost the exact same thing, because some of the pornos aren't even real, you know? And it's almost like what they're doing on set is exactly what they would do on a movie set. But then like you compare a porn star and how they're looked at or viewed next to an actress and how they're looked at and viewed, completely different. Even though half the time they're doing the exact same thing.
Sex is apparently really scary for people.
Yeah.
Sexuality, sensuality.
Yeah.
So many of the problems that we're talking about, and especially like in politics, it's like it comes down to sex and sexuality.
Yeah, totally.
Because it's powerful.
It is.
And
it
that's
really is.
The fear.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know, and maybe that's partially it. Maybe because I feel like during quarantine there was a rise in sexuality for women because OnlyFans came out as being a thing, and I think I just remember I feel like porn stars became like gods and goddesses during that time because there's nothing to do, you know.
And a lot of people, especially men, who are at home consuming the content.
Exactly.
So why is that like a problem?
Yeah.
You know, if you're the demographic consuming it, and also the demographic that wants to control it.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like that's it. I tell my friends this, that I don't like dating men with money. Like, I don't like dating broke men, but like men who have a lot of money, I don't really like because I feel like it's their way to control me. You know, like I went on a date with a guy who spent $5,000 on me and was like on the first date getting this idea in my head of like getting me to quit my job and like funding a business for me. And I was like, why? Like, I love my job. Like, why? But it's a control thing. So I almost feel like, you know, and now, you know, you have these women who are coming out and billionaires from OnlyFans or porn. And I almost feel like maybe that's a part of why we're suddenly getting restricted. You know, we almost had a woman president, and, you know, now women don't need men like we used to. We are getting educated. We are coming into our power in whatever way, even non-sexually. There's really intelligent women starting to like become doctors, become neurosurgeons, all these things. And it's almost like the men who have always been in power are like, no, like we don't even want to risk losing that. So
talking about, you know, like pregnancy and like, is that a goal of ours in our lives? And I'm just so in love with my career.
Yeah.
I'm so happy being like an auntie,
Oh,
you know, and like having my little ones run around me to give my cousins a break.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally.
Because really, as a dancer and a performer, I know, you know, plenty of women that have been able to jump back and like
For
keep
sure.
doing it.
Yeah.
But I think just like for me, it's never been in the stars, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's kind of a deep, what's the word I'm trying to say? It's stigmatism. Also, I have a slight speech impediment.
Do you?
That might come up
I had
a
no
little bit every
idea.
once in a while. Yeah.
I couldn't even tell.
Thank you. Sometimes it's like S's and R's that
Oh,
get me.
funny. Okay.
But for of women that don't want children,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you're being selfish.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and it's like I think actually the most selfish thing you can do is have a child when you don't want to be a mother.
100%. I think that's the biggest disservice you're doing to any life.
Yeah.
By far. So yeah, I get that, and you know, I almost feel like that's why it makes sense they want to take away birth control and get women pregnant again. So and it takes away the threat of women progressing and, you know, moving up in the career status. It keeps men in power.
Yeah.
And it's just such a bummer.
Yeah, it really
it's such
is.
a bummer.
Yeah.
It'd be so powerful if we worked together more and celebrated each other's strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
So, but I get where you're coming from, not wanting kids. Like, I would love to be a mom, but I'm also okay if it doesn't happen in this lifetime for me.
Yeah.
I've always also been okay with the idea of adopting, but the idea of again having the life inside me.
Yeah.
Because our body is our art. It's our work. It's our life. Like, and I tell this to my friend a lot too. You know, she says, you know, I don't want to be too consumed with work because a big thing people say when they die is, I spent too much time at work and not with the people I love. And, you know, and that's my biggest regret. And I tell her, I'm like, oh, didn't mean to say her name. But I'm like, you know, yeah, but like, our work isn't other people's work. Like, when I go into work, I'm with my best friends, doing what I love, enjoying my time. It's actually sometimes the highlight of my day. Like,
well, and what you had mentioned before, like with us, like working together, like so much connection is made in the dressing room.
Yes. Oh my God.
That's like, you talk about what's happening in your life. You talk about your relationships. You talk about not feeling like performing that day because you're on your period. Like, you bond so much in the dressing room, and most of my best friends are gonna be in the dressing room.
Yeah.
And it can be so weird when like that gig changes or you take a different contract and then you don't see these people as much anymore, but you still feel insanely connected to them.
Totally. Yeah. It's literally, it's like all my best friends are from the dressing room. Sometimes I go into work just looking forward to being in the dressing room because it is that community, especially in such an isolated culture. And I feel like too, like, it's just so hard to go anywhere else in the world and to find people who have sacrificed so much to pursue a career that so many people don't understand. Like, because I don't really believe anybody accidentally becomes an artist because it's hard. You don't make a lot of money at the beginning. You put yourself through so much mentally and emotionally. Like, you have to genuinely want to do it. It's not like you became an accountant because that's what your parents wanted you to do because you can make money. It's like, no, you have to like be a starving artist at some point and kind of put everything on the line for this job if you really want it.
Well, most of the time as an artist too, you're a self-contracted worker, self-employed. It's difficult.
It is. It's stressful.
It's stressful, and I think that's what also bonds me and my husband.
Yeah.
So we used to say that. And because both of us have, he teaches music also. The teaching I do, it's my own burlesque school, so it's a little bit different in that way. But just being able to be so passionate about something that you get to share with others, whether it's in performance and or teaching and mentorship.
People, makeup,
filmographers, like
we have to do it all.
Seriously, like, it's crazy. I think people don't give credit to, like, this is gonna sound so silly, but I feel like people don't give credit to hot girls that are successful because they assume, oh, you're hot, you just
are successful because you're hot.
Yeah, and that's it. When in reality, like, I don't care what you do. If you're successful because you're hot, you just learned how to use it and monetize it, but you are still a business person.
Yeah.
Every woman I know who has made money from quote unquote being hot is super smart,
Yeah.
uses her brain, hustles, negotiates. And two, I think people don't realize that like you have to be so tenacious.
Yeah.
You have to be so strong and resilient because however you're using your hotness, you have to set your boundaries in what is okay for you. Otherwise, you're not going to become successful. You're going to get taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And there's literally no way to be hot and get taken advantage of and be successful. You can't. You have to be so strong, so smart, and so on top of your shit. Because if you falter for 1 second, you're kind of fucked.
And what's really hard about it too is as someone that has to move forward with like being an artist and promoting yourself and feel confident about what you're working on and creating, you don't have a lot of people like we, of course, have friends and mentors that we can reach out to. But you have to be confident in yourself. And the amount of people that get jealous or get insecure and then put their insecurity on us to make us insecure so that we aren't thriving.
Want to pull us down with them.
And that's a really hard thing. Like I've had friendships with people that like do similar work to me, and that jealousy that can come in, or even in relationships, it's like I was dating this guy, totally different business than mine, but when my burlesque school started to thrive, he got very oddly jealous and creepy. It was really very unhealthy.
Oh no. How did he get creepy?
He would like follow my burlesque students each week.
Oh my god,
on social media. And it took me a while. He didn't tell me. So it took me like a while to find out. He's like, so what's the deal with so-and-so? I'm like, I don't know. It was her first class. I don't even know if she's going to be back.
That's odd. Something I would really love to know. It's like a little off topic, but on topic. I was talking about this with my friends recently, how sometimes like our friends' exes will watch our stories. They won't watch the ex's stories, but they'll watch the friends' stories to a point where it's weird and creepy. And you're like, are you like, what are you doing? You know? And I think usually the main thing is like they're watching to like see glimpses of their ex. But
they don't want their ex to know. So they're like being sneaky about it.
But also it's like we're girls, we talk, we know, like, and now it's more weird than if you just watch the story. Now you're being like stalkerish and creepy, watching like my friend's story or watching my story when like you broke up with my best friend. Like,
it's so funny because women are such good communicators. And especially about like emotional stuff. And so it's like when like men do these like shady things, you're like, you don't think we talk?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, in what world did you think I wasn't going to tell her or communicate this with my friend?
Totally.
Even when it's hard, you know? Like,
I way rather, like, my friends know there was a situation we had recently, but I'm like an extreme over communicator because I'd rather, like, even if it sounds silly or dumb, I'd rather you think that was silly or dumb than to have even the slightest room to doubt my loyalty, to think I'm lying, to like
transparency is so important.
100%. I don't even want that to be a thought in my friends' minds at all. But the psychology of men and women's brains are so different. It's so fascinating to me. And I feel like I see that more the older I get, of like things that are so simple to women just don't translate to men at all.
Well, and some of these are like learned traits because we've been taught that, you know, gender is binary. And so we're taught that women are this way and men are that way. And we need each other to be the perfect match to do the thing. And that's such bullshit. And if we're training our little girls to be, you know, only mothers and caretakers, and we're teaching our little boys that they need to learn business and do the money, then, you know, those, and it's also generational trauma to kind of let go of these, you know, trained social, what's the word I want to say, social roles that actually aren't real.
That's so true. And it's so funny you bring that up because like in some of the first episodes, you know, I wanted to bring up the differences between men and women, like especially how, like a big point I've made is like we are physically built different. And so women's bodies, you know, are made to give life. We are naturally built softer, which is why having a man that's a protector and a provider is so important, because physically we're different. But it's such an interesting point that you make, is that even though we are different, we also are the same. We're still human, and we still need to cultivate like all aspects of all things. Just because we're a woman and we're built softer doesn't mean we can't be leaders. Doesn't mean we can't bring valuable, if anything, we can bring more valuable insight to the table as leaders, because we see a whole different perspective of things. And I think it's a combination of celebrating our differences and our similarities, and just learning to work together instead of having such a great divide. And something that really has bothered me in today's dating culture is that this like hoe culture, and I think we're starting to shift again, but there's a big like, you know, girls are so attacking men, like, oh, he fucks so many girls, and then girls have started taking on that mentality. So I'm gonna fuck so many guys, and then it just is this vicious cycle of just attacking, when that's not getting us anywhere. And all anybody wants is love, and we're just pushing further away from that. And I think you nailed it. Like, a lot of it comes down to intimidation, of women being intimidated by other women, men being intimidated by women too. And we just need to, like, if we want to be sexy, just let us be sexy.
More empathy in general for people. And, you know, you don't know what people are going through. You don't know how people feel in their bodies. You know, even with like the burlesque school, I've made it very inclusive. So no matter what your ethnicity is, your body shape is, you know, in a lot of burlesques, various body shapes aren't welcomed, because we have this ideal of what a sexy body looks like. But, you know, even in like sexual orientation or gender identity, and it's been really beautiful to provide a safe space for people to explore burlesque, to just, even if they're not wanting to become a burlesque performer, but to move sensually in their bodies and know that their bodies are accepted. Because we don't accept, or
it's true,
we don't accept a lot of bodies.
And as a woman, owning your body, like being proud of your body. Like, when I started burlesque dancing, the most heat I got was from women who were like in their 50s, just hating on me, that I knew as a kid. And I was like, it was shocking. And it's really sad too. But, you know, it's interesting too, because I think we forget we all have insecurities, even people you don't think. Like, I had 2 shows yesterday, and the first one of the girls made a comment on how amazing my body looked. And, you know, I work out a lot, like I'm very toned and fit. But then I went to the second gig, and, you know, it's a very like Hispanic, almost like Miami kind of feel gig, which, you know, I work a lot in that scene being a pole dancer. But like, the crazy thing is, like, I have body image struggles. Like, I do struggle with like, oh, my ass isn't fat enough, like my tits aren't big enough, you know. Or sometimes, like, when I am focused on growing those, like, I go back to my aerial side and I'm like, oh, my abs aren't good enough, like, oh, I'm gaining too much weight, you know. And it's like, the reality is, and I've had so, like, I mean, my career is built on my body, so obviously I have a body people like to look at, but with as much praise as I get, I still struggle. And I think we forget everybody struggles, no matter what you look like. We all struggle with these things, so there's no reason to like hate on people for it.
And it's so much acceptance of, okay, maybe because of my ethnicity, I have wider hips, or wider shoulders, or I'm shorter, or I'm taller, or my skin color is this. You know?
Totally.
And it really comes down to self-acceptance, because we all can't be the heroin chic, like a white model. You know, like,
totally.
We weren't made like that. So we have to accept what we are. And that's really hard.
It is. And it's hard to even jump into different cultures and be like, oh, you know, I may be the standard of beauty in this culture, but this culture has a totally different idea of beauty. And so now what, I'm ugly, you know? And it's just, it's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge. And it's a challenge men go through too, you know?
Absolutely.
And I think you make a really interesting point. I've struggled with that in some of my relationships too, where the men get insecure about me as well and my success.
Mm.
Like that was an issue in my marriage when
Mhm.
I started to really succeed.
Yeah.
He did not like that for sure,
Yeah.
because he wasn't, and he had always kind of been the popular one. So then when I was like coming up as a starting like rising star,
Yeah.
he didn't like that.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge. Do you ever, or how have you and your husband navigated that?
I feel a tremendous amount of support from him,
That's
and not
amazing.
support in the like general like, oh, he's bringing in the bread,
Yeah, yeah.
but just like I know that any choices I make about my career, I know that like we actually like produce a lot of or I would say I produce the shows, he's the band leader in them, but like we're very creative partners in that way, with deciding on music and set lists and what sort of arrangements we're doing. So creatively we get to work a lot together, which is such a blessing and beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And I just feel so supported by any like weird creative artistic idea or long-term goal too.
Yeah.
As dancers, like our career will end at one point because we
True,
can't dance
sadly.
forever.
Yeah, I try to pretend like that will never happen, but
as a classically trained ballet dancer, typically your career ends in your 20s,
Yeah.
and I've been able to extend my dance career through burlesque.
Yeah.
And it's been such an amazing, beautiful thing. But if I'm being realistic, that's going to end one day. Being a teacher and a mentor is really amazing. I definitely want to continue doing that until my body like crashes on me.
For sure.
But especially being in a place like LA, youth is glorified.
It is. It
and
truly is.
Unfortunately, every day we get one day older.
Yeah,
it's just reality.
It is true, which I think we're extremely lucky / take really good care of ourselves, because I have noticed, like, I was talking to one of the girls that I've worked with for a long time, and I'm like, I remember, because I'm a little younger than a lot of the people I work with, and I remember when I first met them, everyone was like 32, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to be them, and now I'm working with all of them, and it's so exciting, but in my head, everyone stayed 32, and nobody really aged physically, everyone still looks the same, like they change their hair all the time, but they still look exactly the same, and I think we're lucky to be in a career where youth is kind of extended for us, because like it's not just only that we have to stay looking youthful, but
we're very disciplined. Like the training that we went through when we were young, circus, ballet, dance,
being very
like,
active
very
and
disciplined.
and just eating well, having a good skincare routine. It does make us stay youthful for a long time. But it does end at some point. Sadly, like I see too, like everyone's having all these surgeries right now, and I'm like, it does get harder on, like I have to sleep more. Ever since I turned 30, it's like, oh my God, sometimes I have to sleep 12 hours. And it's funny because like we actually congratulate each other when we do sleep for 12 hours. We're like, good job, you needed that.
I love to sleep. It's so important.
It's so great. It's essential. And we don't always get it. Like sometimes you are doing back-to-back gigs and you just have to keep going because you don't know when the money's going to stop. And it does go like this. But yeah, it's really interesting. I think that's another reason why I'm a big believer of when you're in a relationship with someone, people say like either date someone with a lot of money so they can take care of you. And I've also heard like date someone below your league because then he'll be obsessed with you and he'll never cheat on you. Which I know, right?
Both bad advice.
Both bad. And I'm kind of like, I've dated some people below my league, and I feel like those end up being the worst ones.
Oh my gosh.
I
mean, you were talking about like dating culture. I think that's what's like with all these apps and things. Like we've compartmentalized people with what we think is the ideal, because we just want to like mark off, and because I've never used the apps, but you're just getting a profile of someone and you're like swipe left, right, left, and it's really desensitized us to actually like meeting someone and being like, this is unexpected. Like I didn't think my husband when I first met him was going to be my husband.
Funny.
Sometimes it surprises you. And you wouldn't know that by swiping left or right. Just based on a profile.
It's so true. Well, and it goes back to what you were saying at the beginning, like the loss of community and the isolation that's just started in culture, and just needing to like reconnect as people without technology. And technology, I see it as a blessing in a lot of ways.
Of course,
but
it connects us.
But
it's just it's moved so fast too.
Too fast for our brains to handle. I'm just waiting for the day books about how social media affects dating psychologically comes out, because it is a huge psychological thing that we've just been bombarded with. Or friendships and work. And it's so funny. The other day I posted something. I told my agent I couldn't come in because I had rehearsal, and I tend to post my stories like a few hours later because I like to be in the moment and then go back and make sure it's how I want it to be before I post it. But I posted like me working out at the gym with my girls at my rehearsal time, which was the time I could have been at my agency. And
they cut it.
And I saw she watched it, and I was like, oh no, what if she thinks I'm lying? Like, what if she thinks I just made that up to go hang out with the girls? But it's crazy how we've had such a short amount of time to really adjust to all the changes happening. And sometimes just going back to the roots of like just being with people is really important. I think that's like one of my number one detox things is I'll leave my phone at home for like an hour and I'll just walk down the street. And that's it,
I love when I like accidentally, it stresses me out.
For sure.
To like accidentally leave your cell phone at home for an hour, but it's like, no, this is good.
And
if anyone like needs me, I'm gonna see it in an hour. So like let go of that attachment to this thing for an hour.
It's okay. Everything will be okay. So it's crazy. I think it's actually a kind of a good time to end and to wrap up.
It's Los Angeles, so of course the meter is about to go off, and they will ticket me as soon as it changes from green to red.
And plus, like, we've had some storage and technical issues, so. But thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
We might have to bring her back for another episode, honestly.
Well, I'm more than happy to.
Yay!
Thank you for having me.
And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks for another episode. Bye.